Hey everyone, this is Eric, the host of the Data Career Track Office Hours. I'm here with Chris Young, who's another mentor for the course, and we're going to just have a quick conversation about Chris and his background and the experience that he's had as a data analyst. So Chris, welcome. How's it
Thank
going?
you. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, let's just jump into it. So why don't you tell me a little bit about your background, where you went to school, how long you've been in the field, that sort of stuff.
Sounds good. So I've been in the field for 15 years, primarily in banking and financial services. I went to University of Maryland for my undergraduate degree in business management, and then I have MBA from Arizona State University. Right outside of finishing my undergrad, I got a job as a compliance analyst. It was pretty much an operational type of role, but in compliance. And we were, this might date me a little bit, but we were doing compliance reviews of physical loan files of mortgages. And so the loan files would come in off the loading dock in boxes, and they would stack them up outside of our cube, and we would pull them up on our desk and flip through the files and look at the documents for compliance regulations like truth in lending and RESPA. A lot has changed in the mortgage industry from a regulatory perspective, as you can probably understand from the crash in 2008. I did that job for a hot second. It was quite boring, but I was able to apply some of my technical acumen to that role, and I transitioned to like a systems analyst, kind of like project manager / systems analyst, where we were building proprietary systems within the company. And then I moved into kind of like reporting and analytics and more on the data analyst side, writing SQL, pulling data from all sorts of different systems of record, working with business intelligence tools. Started migrating into managing teams, started with like maybe 1 or 2 analysts on my team, and then grew as big as 12. That was the largest team that I had. So I did that for about 12 years and at Bank of America. In 2013, I switched over into a role where we were, it was a mortgage outsourcing company, and they were building out this origination system. And so I had all that compliance and systems background from B of A, and they recruited me over there to help build out that system. That didn't go very well, but I made lemonade out of it, and I moved into like a reporting manager, where we were doing all of our contractual reporting for our clients. And then that takes me to today. I'm back at a bank. I work for Wells Fargo. I'm an analytics consultant at Wells Fargo, and I'm back in compliance as well. You kind of come back to your roots, and I work in responsible banking. So I'm responsible for doing data analytics, making sure that the bank is doing the right thing for its customers. You may have read a lot of the news. That's a big need in our area right now. So I'm real excited with the challenges that it's presenting.
Yeah, that's a huge topic for Wells Fargo in particular too.
It is a very big topic. I was actually looking at something related to my role, and my role is directly related to the stuff that you read in the news.
Yeah. I just have a quick question. Having worked in the finance field a little bit myself, I used to work for an advertising agency, but our largest client was a big regional bank here in Texas. And they were really concerned about security and just like all of the different security features that new technologies might have or not have. So they were like super old school about a lot of the stuff that they did. How have you found finance, like just the finance industry in general? Have they been better at adopting modern technologies, or do you feel like they're still a little behind?
Yeah, so you mean maybe down the road you might ask a question about like tips and stuff, but that's the one thing that is probably top of the list, frustration working for a large bank. And to be very frank, I had some, didn't really want to go back because you can get that issue of working with data technology. I have to admit, Wells Fargo is better than Bank of America was with respect to at least desktop software. So being able to get the right tool for what you're working on. One thing that I've learned in my career is, as a tip, is to use the best tool that you have available, and don't try to, fit a square through a circle hole on a tool that you're good with,
Right.
because you're good with it. Because you're gonna run into like things like you said, like this system's dated, or we're working on a version from 10 years ago. It's just real common. It's a highly regulated industry. So change control and rolling out software like that is a very lengthy process. So
Yeah.
that's why you have that problem.
Yeah, for sure. What type of systems and programs do you use?
So I'm very heavy into the Microsoft stack. And so we use all of the tools. So SQL Server, Management Studio to write all your transact queries, SQL Server integration services to do ETL and move data around. We use reporting services for kind of self-service basic reports. Reporting services is not your typical like Tableau visualization tool. It's more of a highly customizable tool to build like little extract reports or things of that nature. And then we also use SQL Server analysis services to create OLAP cubes. So building online analytical processing to build cubes to kind of streamline reporting in different areas. So very heavy in the SQL Server world. I use Python for more of ad hoc analysis on my side. Not really much production work going on with Python, just in my current role. And then on the reporting side, we do have Tableau. We use it a little bit, but we mostly stick with like Excel and SQL Server.
Have you used Power BI at all?
We don't have Power BI at Wells Fargo yet. It's on the roadmap. We're not there just yet. We're still on. So we use SharePoint very heavily. So I do a lot of scripting in PowerShell, and scripting in JavaScript and HTML, creating like custom web apps in SharePoint. And so we're on SharePoint 2016. I was actually just talking to one of my peers at work, and I'm kind of hoping that we either get Office 365 or get the newer version of SharePoint, because that will come with some of the newer tools that Microsoft has out there. But going back to the dated tech, 2016 is not bad. It's only 2019. That's 3 years old.
Right. I was looking at my version of Excel that I have on my laptop, and I think I'm still in like 2012 or something.
I have a student that he's on 2013 Excel, and he was pinging me yesterday about creating box plots, and it's really hard in the older version of Excel, and I highly recommend it. Take advantage of that. I think Springboard offers to reimburse you for the cost of Office 365, I believe. I may be wrong, right? I highly recommend that. Using the latest is definitely the way to go.
Yeah, I definitely need to upgrade myself. Cool. Well, what do you like about the field of data analytics, and what do you feel like brought you into this field in the first place?
So I didn't choose it, to be very honest. Like I mentioned, I started as that compliance analyst role, and it was really just my kind of like my. I was always excited about building things, and so I just kind of followed that path within a very large institution. And one thing I would recommend for people is to not shy off from maybe like a operations type role. You may not be you're not a data analyst right away, but if you showcase your skills and you start to use the right tools to solve problems, people will see real quickly that you're probably in the wrong spot. And then you could like move over to a role. And that's my career in a nutshell, is I moved over and then I started moving up. And so I love it because it's humbling in the sense that you're always learning. There's always something new to learn. And so if you thrive on being challenged and every day you come up with something, whatever you did, it's kind of cryptic, right? But whatever you did that day that was new and exciting, it's like, cool, man. It's like, wow, I just did that. And, put that in the toolbox, and then something might come up later and you'll apply it.
Yeah, it's interesting that you said that the thing that you like the most is that you get to build things, because that's exactly what I like about it as well. Like I started my data analytics career like 10-ish years ago, just doing a lot of SQL programming for a telemarketing company. And we built some really cool stuff like in Excel as a front end for our SQL Server data implementation or database implementation. That was really cool. We like tortured Excel to make it do all sorts of stuff that it wasn't supposed to do. And then worked for the marketing agency for a while, built some interesting like data warehouse stuff for them. And then I actually felt like I wanted to build something in the physical world instead. So I took a break from work and built a tiny house with my wife. And even though that's something like totally different, I felt like it was kind of along in the same vein, because it was just another like construction project, and like was figuring out all the different steps and doing some research beforehand, and then just applying what you had done, and knocking out little step by little step. And at the end, you have a really cool project that you finish.
Yeah, definitely. The Excel system of record issues. You know, I mean, that's like huge in a large enterprise. People are using Excel for not really the things it is intended for. But
yeah, definitely, for sure. Well, what do you wish that you had known when you first started in your
um, you mean both my degrees are in business, and you learn so much when you get into the job. You mean I kind of wish I would have developed my determination. Like, so like once I started working, you start to have a lot more motivation to do things well and do them quickly and effectively, right? Your performance reviews, promotions, and you kind of get the incentive to kind of grow. And I wish I would have had that earlier in my life, especially like during college, because in college I was like, I'm smart enough just to get by. And that's exactly what I did. And so I took, different like computer science classes, statistics class, and I did all right with them, but they were too hard and I didn't want to work hard enough on them. So I like moved on to something different. And I wish I would have stuck with it. I really wish I would have, because I think it's not required, but having that like quantitative mindset, or, maybe like a computer science background or a stats background, that can help, and it builds a good framework in this career. And so that's one thing that I regret, is I didn't try harder and stick with something that I was interested in, but I was looking for the easy way out.
For sure. Are you gonna go forward and learn any more hard computer science skills just to keep your career moving forward?
So I'm in the predicament that I have multiple degrees and I have a lot of student loans, and I'm kind of out of. So I'll tell you, I'll be very honest with you. I'm constantly learning. I'm always, whether it's some sort of, MOOC course or Coursera or whatever, and I flipped it, right? And now what I'm doing is, instead of me taking a course, I teach courses.
Right.
So I just said, instead of me paying for this course, I'm going to mentor it and I'm going to learn with them. And that, a lot of the times, and that's the best way to learn something is if you can teach it. And then when you do it over and over again, you get that experience. So I'm also not managing a team anymore. I do not miss the administrative work of managing a team, but I do miss the teaching part. And so that's what brings me to Springboard. And I'm also involved in other courses. I tutor in a data analytics boot camp. I mentor in machine learning, predictive analytics. So I love that part of it, the teaching part.
Yeah. I asked because I actually just started earlier this week a master's in computer science through Georgia Tech online. And so I felt like I got to a point in my career that most of the job postings that I was really interested in had, like, in big bold letters, like must have a master's in statistics or computer science or an MBA or something like that. And I just had a bachelor's degree. So a bachelor's degree, I feel like in this field, can take you really far. But if you want to level up and go on to that next level, then an advanced degree really does help.
I agree. So going back to what I it's not sure if I want to invest my time into a formal degree right now to do that, but I have looked into it for sure.
Yeah. this Georgia Tech program that I'm in now is the online master's in computer science. And what I liked about it was it's like a 2-year program that's designed to be part-time, and it's only like $7,000 for the whole master's.
Yeah. That's the one that's sponsored by Udacity, right?
Yep. And they also just started a master's in analytics as well. So
yeah. I've looked into that primarily because of the cost. Makes it not such a huge barrier of entry. So I wish those types of programs were around 10 years ago. I probably would have less debt.
Right. Yeah. The MBA is pretty rough on that.
Yeah.
I see that in the chat, Angela just asked, what do you think about those master's degrees in data science? Is it better to have a master's in computer science or data science if we want to advance our career later on? I chose computer science rather than the master's in analytics, just because at this point, I feel like those analytics or data science masters don't have the proven track record that a computer science degree does. So I think that that's going to be a lot more of a challenging question to answer in 2 or 3 years when people who have done those degrees have a little bit more time in the working world and have some salary metrics that they can share on how a degree in analytics or data science has leveled them up in their careers. So I chose computer science just because it had a proven track record, and most of the job postings that I was looking for specifically called out computer science.
Right.
But I do think that the master's degrees in data science are really interesting, and I was pretty torn between which one I wanted to do. And now I'm even well, I could do a dual master's, and it's only 1.5 times the cost because they're both at Georgia Tech, but that seems like a lot to try and do all at once. So my answer would be that right now I still think computer science is a little bit better just for the proven track record, but in 2 or 3 years, that'll probably be up in the air and kind of a toss-up between the two. What about you? What do you think?
Yeah, I totally agree with everything you said. I would focus, in a lot of the CS programs, they'll have, maybe a machine learning component or, a visualization component. Like University of Illinois has a really good program. They're a top CS program in the country, and they have a master's in computer science, but it's a focus on data science. And it's not as cheap as the one that you're going to. I think it's $20,000, but comparatively speaking, that's still a steal. So I would lean towards, if you're going to do a master's, now you're going to run into what Erik was saying earlier. You might run into, there's going to be heavy prereqs. They're going to be looking for that core foundation because typically speaking, somebody who's getting a master's in CS, it also has an undergrad in CS, generally speaking. And so they do require some of those core, programming skills, just all the basics. So they'll list out the prereqs. But
yeah, what I did, because my undergrad degree was in economics, and so what I did to fulfill those prereqs was to do 1 semester through Western Governors University, which is an online school that is only, I think it's $33,000 or $3,500 for a semester, and you can finish as many courses as you get through and take the final exam. They basically just open up the final to you whenever you want to take it, and you can just bang through courses. So that was really helpful for me because I had what I felt like was a decent knowledge background before I just needed the credential to say that I had I was able to do all the prereq stuff.
The other option, so I'm in Orange County in California, and so UT Irvine is a really good school that's local to me. They have a master's in computer science, and they actually have an option. There's the GRE, which is graduate preparation course. They have one that's specific to computer science. And then so if you take that course and you pass it or whatever, you get the minimum score, it can really help you. So that's another option.
For sure. Yeah. And I think this whole discussion of master's degrees is pretty helpful for the second level of an analyst career.
Right.
But I definitely think that doing a boot camp level intro course is like super helpful to get your foot in the door and to try it out for a few years and make sure that it's something that you actually enjoy doing.
Right.
Because I've definitely seen a lot of people come into the field and then just be like, oh, this is very much not for me. Like I more want to be a project manager or something that doesn't end up using the same level of analysis or even the light programming.
Totally. Like get your job, see if you like it before you invest that kind of funds into it. I'm a perfect example because I'll tell you a secret. I actually have a master's in accounting. And because I originally thought I wanted to become a CPA. And halfway through it, I said I didn't really want to be a CPA. But I ended up finishing the program. And now I paid for this master's degree. And I don't even really keep it on my profile anymore because I'm not working in accounting. And so it's definitely, this boot camp or, the data analytics career track can kind of get you into that more of that entry level data analyst role. And if you think it's something that you want to grow into at a higher level, maybe manage a small team or become like a senior analyst, things of that nature, then start looking into the formal education.
Right. Well, as somebody who has managed a team of analysts before, what do you feel like are the core skills that people need to get like that first entry level job?
You mean honestly, we focus so much on the tech skills, and yes, you have to have that, right? But the problem solving skills and the ability to break down problems into its smaller parts, or get thrown into the middle of a fire and be able to analyze the situation, use the data to break it down into smaller parts and solve that problem. Those types of skills are just kind of intrinsic into an analyst. You will build it over time, but you kind of just have that kind of like that core kind of analytical ability. And so what I'm looking for is I try to see if I can pick that out during an interview, see if I can get any clues of it. I could teach you how to write SQL. I could teach you how to write Python. I could teach you how to use Excel. I could teach you pretty much any tool. Those types of traits are hard to teach. So really kind of do a deep dive on yourself. And when you're going through, like, for example, in this course, you're going to run into like an assignment that's really vague. It's not going to give you all the information that you probably need. And, can you run with that, or do you feel flustered and you have to go off and maybe, constantly like maybe ask a lot of questions? And that's great. You always want to ask questions when you have ambiguity, but at some point you're going to have to make a decision. And when you're a manager, you have 10 other people coming to you to make those decisions. And that's kind of what I've learned over my career for sure.
Yeah. I'm curious to hear also, just like, I know you said that you're glad that you're not having all of the tedium of managing a team anymore, but yeah, if you could just go into it a little bit more about like, what was it like moving from an analyst up to a manager? And then what was it that made you want to step back and just be an individual contributor again?
Well, I got away with being a manager for a very long time, but still kind of have the individual contributor responsibilities. Over my career, especially at B of A, most of my performance reviews, they would always have some negative component, right? And the negative component was me not letting go of things because I loved it. And so I would take on those challenging problems, right, that maybe I didn't have the skill on my team to do, so I would have to take it on myself. And I would just run with it, and then I would own it. And so I kind of had that hybrid role, and I kept kind of moving up and up and up, and I was just latching on to it, right? And so it wasn't hard for me because I love it. You know what I mean? I do miss the teaching part, and I can supplement that with mentoring. So right now, I think I got the perfect mix of the individual contributor role, and I don't have to do all the performance reviews, but I still can kind of get the best of both worlds.
Yeah, and like pick and choose the projects that you're most interested in and use the different skills or develop the different skills that you're actually curious about.
Yeah, you mean it gives you more time. Like I had never really did like online analytical processing, like building cubes. And in this new role, I've learned that, and I've had the time to kind of take on and learn that new skill. So growing more like I worked for one company for a very long time, and but in the last 5 years, I've changed twice, and I don't have any regrets at all because I've learned so much.
Yeah.
Getting that exposure to different people, different systems, different ways of doing things is so rewarding.
Yeah, one of the other questions that I have here on my job search section of these interview questions is how should I manage a career in data analytics? And I think that what you just said is a lot of what I have experienced in my career as well, of just staying somewhere long enough that you can really understand the company and the culture and the tech stack, but then also not being scared of moving on after 2 or 3 years to go and experience something different, because there are so many different technologies and types of questions to solve, and types of managers that you'll have, and industries to work in, that I think it's really, really helpful to jump around at least a little bit, and just try a bunch of different things out and see what you like and see what you don't like.
Yeah, you want to balance the job hopping mentality. So you want to find the right medium, but in today's day and age, I mean, my biggest fear was that I would work for a bank for my entire career, and I'd retire in my whatever my 70s or whatever it is, and then not feel like, wow, I didn't experience the world. And so that was kind of what was in my mind at the time. But you want to balance it, right? You don't want to be change jobs every 6 months, because
Right.
it takes 6 months just to get kind of acclimated, and you're going to be constantly feeling like you don't know where you are and not comfortable. So there's a good medium in there. When I changed my job in 2000 and whatever 2012 it was, I the first thing I said to myself was, oh my God, what am I doing? I should have done this probably 5 years ago, because now I'm like feeling like really a fish out of water. And so it helps you grow as a person. It helps you grow as a professional.
And also it helps your salary too, to jump between companies rather than trying to rise up in one company.
And you don't have to leave the company. You know what I mean? If you work for a big enough company, you could change within the company and get exposure to new teams. And so.
Yeah. Yeah. At least in my experience, I've gotten much larger jumps in salary by switching companies though than I ever did by staying in the same place, and even switching horizontally or whatever to a new team. Like that salary history stays with you unless you can go somewhere else, at least in my experience.
This was pre-mortgage boom. So before the bust in 2008, there was a joke at my company. It was a boomerang effect, because what people would do is they would leave to the competing mortgage company and get a bigger salary and then come back.
Yep.
Circle right back around.
For sure. I've seen that so much. Yeah, that's interesting. Well, that's actually all of our time. We're already at a half hour, but it was awesome talking to you. Thanks for taking the time today. And I thought it was a really interesting conversation.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks so much. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in, and we'll be back next week.
Cool. Have a great weekend.
All right. See ya. Bye.
Bye.